All right, I think we're live. Mic check 1 2 1 2. Mic check 1 2 1 2. If anyone in the chat can hear me, just push 1. All right, I got a confirmation from G Darius. Thanks for the confirmation, man. Welcome back to the Black Brain Trust. This is episode 394. Black should be space and technology. Please hit the like button as you come in. Share the video if possible. Also hit that notification bell so you get all the updates from the Black Brain Trust, including those posted on the community tab. Document in the description beneath the video for you to follow along with. If you want to get on the panel and contribute and engage in the discussion, there'll be a link in the chat for you to click on. When you click on the link, make sure you raise your hand so that one of us can acknowledge you and advance you to the panel. All right, let me drop a link. All right, if you want to get into IT for the first time at the entry level, we do offer IT mentorship. If you are going from one IT role to another, we do offer IT coaching. If you have a resume you want looked at and you have salary negotiation questions, we do have myself, Nicole 11, as well as Gabe A, that can help you out with salary negotiations. Also complex design. We do have a full staff here that does help out in that area. If you're in the tri-state area and you are looking for IT contract work, Nicole 11 does have recs on the table. Make sure you leave your comments at the end of the live stream stating that you are interested in IT contract work. We got 12 people watching and only 6 likes. Please hit the like button if you have not already done so, if you're not going to participate in the discussion. Let me go through the chat and give people shout outs. G Darius, what's going on? Danielle Gardner, what's going on? Marvin Evans. Hey, Mike, looks like I'm going to be a regular now. Good for you. Aquateki, what's going on? Thai City, what it do, what it do? All right, man, let me get started. It's already 8:45. All right, first item on the docket is from newser.com. Visa issues warning about buying your gas like this. Using cards at gas pumps can be very risky, Visa says. Let's expand this out. Ever wonder about the safety of using credit cards at gas pumps? Well, Visa has issued two recent security alerts about cybercrime groups that have hacked North American fuel dispensers, installed malware, and called out what appears to be unencrypted card data. ZDNet reports. Seems there were 5 attacks in all, 2 of which are linked to a cybercrime group called Fin8, which has targeted retail, entertainment, and hospitality industries before. Also, seems the few attacks mark a new MO for cybercrime operations. One big problem, Visa says, is that many gas stations don't use chip and PIN card readers on gas pumps. They just read the card's payment data from its magnetic strip. So Visa is telling fuel dispenser merchants to install chip and PIN systems by October 2020, at which point card fraud liability will shift to operators. An analyst at Trend Micro, which warned about this threat 4 years ago, tells ZDNet that operators can also use VPNs to encrypt traffic to the gas station's main network. As for the rest of us, well, it might be best to use in-store chip and PIN transactions or good old cash. This is interesting because it takes a lot of labor to actually perform this sort of operation from a cyber crime standpoint. You have to actually get into the supply chain network, and you also have to physically install these devices. It takes a lot of effort to do something like this. So if they're going to do this, they're going to target some of the weaker gas stations and pose as, let's say, an auditor or some kind of technician that's going to come work on the pump. They were scheduled to come out. That takes a lot of effort. So it's a brazen operation on their behalf. And it usually happens in areas that are very much low income. So there's no real urgency to actually cross-check and verify who are these mass individuals who are coming in and working on these gas pumps. It takes a lot of effort to do it. So this is a major operation for such a small gain. Maybe if you have a lot of, let's say, for example, a lot of low-income people use their EBT cards or their transitional assistance cards to pump gas into their car. I think you only allotted like $20 per purchase or something like that. As long as they can get the card data, that's all that matters to them, the bad guys. Bad guys get card data. Card data can be leveraged within minutes. And you would never know that because by the time you drive into your car and go onto your destination, purchases have already been made. They've already went on Amazon. They've already went on to various websites and have used that credit card information and have made some major purchases. And then what happens with those purchases? They either send it back and get a refund on their goods, or they sell it to in third-party areas or third world nations or something like that. They buy an iPhone or iPhone accessories or something like that, and then sell that stuff for a profit. They never came out of their pocket at all. They actually make money off of this. So there's a lot of reasons as to why they'll go this far, but there's a lot of labor that's involved in it. I don't see this being a massive problem, but it's still a problem nonetheless. So my cybersecurity take on this. What's going on, Josh? But you know what? Thinking about this, a few years from now, maybe a decade from now, this probably won't even be a thing because everybody will have electric cars, right? Especially by 2030, 2045. That stuff is going to be pretty obsolete. So this sort of attack is going to be very temporary. All right, let me get to the next article. All right, this one's from fastcompany.com. When should your child get a smartphone? This will be interesting. If it seems like all your friends have smartphones, you may be on to something. A new report by Common Sense Media, a nonprofit that reports on technology and media for children, found that by the age of 11, more than half the kids in the US have their own smartphone. By age 12, more than two-thirds do. And by age 14, teens are just as likely as adults to own a smartphone. Some kids start much younger. Nearly 20% of 8-year-olds have their own smartphone. 20% of 8-year-olds. I'd be wondering what Complex's response is to that, since he has an 8-year-old as well. So, what's the right age for you? Well, I study the effects of media and technology on kids, and I'm here to say that there is no single right answer to this question. The best I can offer is this: when both you and your parents feel the time is right. Here are some points to consider to help you and your parents make this decision. This is interesting. Responsibility. Have you shown that you are generally responsible? Do you keep track of important belongings? Do you understand the value of money, and can you save up to buy things you want? These are all good signs that you may be ready for a phone. If not, it might be wise to wait a bit longer. Safety. Do you travel to or from school or after school activities without an adult? This is when phones often go from a want to a need. Sometimes parents report that they feel better knowing they can reach their children directly and that their kids can reach them too. Social maturity. Do you treat your friends with kindness and respect? Do you understand the performance of the internet, or the permanence of the internet? The fact that once something goes out onto the web, it can never truly be deleted. It is critically important that you have a grasp on these issues before you own a smartphone. We all get angry and say hurtful things we don't mean sometimes. But when we post something on the internet that you might not mean later or might wish you could take back, even on a so-called anonymous app, it can have real and lasting harmful effects. In the area of smartphones, there have been huge increases in cyberbullying. If you and your parents decide this is a good time to take that step, here are some tips to create a healthy relationship between you and your phone. See, I'm on the fence about this. I'm on the fence about this, and here's why. We got along just fine before there was any smartphones. We used to go to, I used to ride my bike to school, 5 miles, and didn't even matter. No one really cared. Even when we had pagers back in the 90s, there was no demand for everybody to have a pager or a two-way pager or anything like that. Why do we need to have phones for people who are incapable of even passing a literacy exam, right? It's kind of weird. They're not even old enough to vote, but yet they have this level of technology that usually you need an accompanying adult to actually pay the bill for it. It seems really weird that there's this sort of idea that, well, what if he's going to an after school program? Well, we went to after school programs too, and nobody nobody cared about whether or not we had a cell phone or any form of communication. Back then we only had payphones. What the fuck is this? Yeah, I just find that to be weird that you're going to give this child a $500 device, but you don't want to pay for school books, or you don't want to pay for a uniform or anything like that. So the technology comes before anything, right? And I know a lot of people like to point to like the Colorado shooting and how those kids they were able to call their parents while they were hiding under a desk or something like that, or hiding in a closet from the shooters, the mass shootings and stuff like that. that might be very well and good, but there's other, an 8-year-old having a phone is different than a 16-year-old having a phone, right? Yes, but as long as there's some kind of parental controls that happens at the service provider layer, right, where we can actually block certain kinds of content and certain type of websites, then that makes a lot of sense. But when you have an open source sort of approach to this, where you have these kids running around with designer phones, iPhones, and stuff like that, that allows them to actually get involved in spaces on the internet that they probably should not, right? Because the algorithm of social media websites actually push content to people regardless of what their age is. And that's why you have COPA with YouTube, right? So with YouTube, you have to make sure that you verify before you even do a live stream or upload a video that this is not acceptable for children, right? You kind of check the checkbox and say yes or no. Is this acceptable for children or for minors, for that matter? And so there's governance spaces there, but giving a child a full-fledged phone, they take selfies and then they send it to somebody. Some creep is on the other side of the phone, and you don't know who they're communicating with. I don't know, man. That's just really, at 8 years old, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Some of these kids are still wet in the bed, but yet they got a $500 phone. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Let me see who's in the chat. Oh, we got Josh on the panel with us. What it do, Wody?
What's up, man? Can you hear me? My bad.
I can hear you, bro. What's going on?
I'm chilling, man. Yeah. But hey, I just wanted to chime in though. I agree, bro. That's giving kids like too much access to adults than what they need. And that's the way I put it. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
That might not be the right words, but I mean, kids shouldn't have that much access to too many adults, at a young age like that. Like for instance, I was watching a documentary about this Mayonnaise woman, messing with one of the kids, in school or whatever. She was a teacher, and the way the lady was a predator. She was using her phone. They got like these new apps now that you can install on your phone, and then install it on the kid's phone. And then one good thing about it, though, they have like a separate app. It's like the parent app, so you can set like settings on the phone where like if keywords pop up through the messages, it'll give you alert on your parent phone, on the parent phone. And so that's how they was able to catch this lady. But she was, she met the little boy at his grandparents' house, and did her thing with him or whatever, predator crap. But yeah, I think these phones, because I had to take my son from I had to take my phone from my son because he had a phone, and I thought it was a good idea at a certain point. But at the end of the day, I think they don't need at least a smartphone. One of those old flip phones would be good. You know what I'm saying? And only for emergencies.
Right.
You feel me? So yeah, all this technology, I don't think it needs to go to no kids that young. You know what I'm saying? So
because the technology is ungoverned, right? You don't know where they're going with it. And even if you did, like, why would they need it, right? Well, what if I need to get in touch with him? Who got in touch with us when we was younger in the 90s, man? Nobody got in touch with us.
Yeah, exactly. I knew to be in the house when the street lights came on. That was it. My mom ain't had to go call me though.
Yeah, I didn't have a cell phone, man. So I was like, man, like 32 or something like that, man.
Yeah.
I was for a payphone. I would stick my hand at the in the little coin slot at the bottom, man. It'd be like mad piss at the bottom, man, because somebody done pissed in the coin slot. That's how grimy it was back then. It's crazy. And the thing is, once they get involved in something, then they want to come out with all these laws and whatnot and say, well, you have to do this to your live streams, or you have to do this to your upload videos. You have to put age 13 or above or something like that. It's just like, wait a second. If you just took the technology from them that they don't need, then you don't have that problem. Kids come to school with smartphones, and they spend more time looking at their phone than actually doing their work. And then they turn back around and say, well, what about their freedom? We didn't have that kind of freedom. If you got caught in class with like a Walkman or something like that, back then we had Walkmans and Discman, right? In the 90s. Yeah. They would take that from you and you would have to go to the principal's office and actually get that back at the end of the day.
Yeah, well, sometimes if they catch you more than once, they'll, say you can't get it back to the end of the year.
Oh, yeah.
You know?
Yeah, now these kids got rights, man. They out there protesting, like, give me back my iPhone.
I know, right?
Crazy. But they won't pay, the same parents that will spend buku bucks on a phone won't spend money on a uniform. Crazy. All right, let me get to this next one from Gizmodo.com. Why Google's Pixel feature drops could give you one reason to ditch your iPhone. Read this. All right. First came the Nexus, then as Google continued to try to build its own iPhone, a winning, in theory, mix of mobile software and hardware that it has full control over, we got the Pixel. The Pixel feature drop is its latest ploy in getting you to switch. And we're here to explain what exactly that is and what exactly it gives you. The iPhone update cycle is now well established. We get new phones every September in a new version of iOS 2. New features and major app updates get pushed out once a year, which means like the likes of Apple Maps, Apple Music, Apple Mail, Notes, Reminders, and the rest stay more or less the same for 12 months. The pattern is changing a little bit. iOS 13.1 added the ability to share your ETA in Apple Maps, for instance, while iOS 13.3 just added tighter parental controls. So you can set the limits on how much FaceTiming your kids can do. We just got finished talking about kids and phones. By and large, though, the big upgrades roll around once a year. Google decoupled updates from Gmail, Google Maps, Google Drive, and its other apps from the rest of Android a long time ago, not least to mitigate the damaging effects of Android fragmentation. Even if your Samsung or LG phone isn't running Android 10, at least you have the most up-to-date version of Gmail. Now Google is going further with the Pixel feature drop, incremental upgrades for Pixel owners that may or may not appear with any regularity. The plan is for quarterly drops, but with one on the board so far, we'll have to wait and see. This has been unofficially happening for some time, with features like Night Sight rolling out independently of Android updates and Pixel launches. But now Google wants to put everything on a more formal footing. Your phone should get better over time, says Google Group Product Manager Shanaz Zak in a blog post. Your Pixel automatically updates regularly with fixes and improvements. Now, your Pixel will also get bigger updates and new Pixel feature drops. Since the first Pixel appeared back in 2016, Pixel Android has effectively replaced stock Android and allowing Google to show off how good its mobile OS can be. It's still very close to the stock Android experience, so you'll see on other phones like the Nokia range. But there are extra Pixel bells and whistles, starting with that distinctive weather and calendar widget on the home screen and moving out from there. In the years since the original Pixel exclusives have become more ambitious and more desirable and more closely tied to the hardware of the phone too. Take squeezing the sides of your Pixel to launch Google Assistant, for example, or turning your Pixel into an assistant-powered smart display when it's being wirelessly charged, a mode introduced with Pixel 3 and carried over to Pixel 4. The Pixel 4 arrived with a very clever real-time audio transcription app, an app which is now making its way to the Pixel 2, Pixel 3, and the Pixel 3a phones as part of the Pixel feature drop happening now. This inaugural drop also includes improvements to the call screen feature on Pixels. Unknown callers are screened in the background and either silently declined in the case of robocalls, or displayed with a transcript of the caller's message if the call appears to be a genuine one. Meanwhile, new features being added to Duo mean you and your friends are kept in the frame when you make calls from a Pixel 4. Improvements are being added to portrait mode in Google Photos too, enabling you to add a background blur to your pictures you took yesterday or several years ago. It uses AI processing, so it doesn't matter if the original image includes depth data. A special focus mode is being added to the digital well-being tools in Android with the first Pixel feature drop as well, letting you mute apps with a tap when you want to. Well, focus. Other updates are less noticeable, like most efficient background processing in Google Maps, so you can expect better location quality in the future. Better memory management is also coming to the all Pixel phones with the first feature drop. Your phone proactively compresses cached applications so that users can run multiple applications at the same time, like game streaming content and more, Google says. From what we can tell from the first Pixel feature drop, some new features will be exclusive to the latest Pixel phones. Some new features will be rolled out to additional countries and regions. And some new features will be pushed out to older Pixels. The live captions feature that debuted with the Pixel 4 is now headed to the Pixel 3 and 3a, for example. You can also expect Google Assistant improvements to come to the Pixel phones first as well. The timing of these feature drops doesn't look like being particularly precise, at least not based on the first one. Google's blog post says that the new features are already rolling out, but might take weeks to arrive on every Pixel. In other words, we're not going to get a specific Pixel feature drop day. With only one Pixel feature drop on the board so far, it's a little early to judge how this might improve the appeal of the Pixels. But the plan seems to be to keep on pushing out new and innovative features that affect the very core of the phone throughout the year, and not just the Google apps that run on top of it. So this is very interesting that they're kind of doing like what rappers do with singles and whatnot. Instead of just releasing a whole album or a big update, they just kind of drip one little track here and there in a mixtape here and there. And so you don't get the full thing, but you do get some of their content, right? So Google's doing the same thing with updates. They're kind of just pushing out a new update individually rather than holistically, and like a service pack that Microsoft used to do. So you get major updates on the fly. This is a part of DevOps, development operations. And so DevOps, it works at speed. So the faster you can get it to production, the better. Get it out of dev, get it into production, and then push it out. That's how they work in DevOps. Whereas traditionally, you kind of waited for a whole year, like they said about Apple, that you get a big update, major update around September, October time frame, and then that's it for the year. With Google, they're saying you're going to get it by the week. So if there's a new feature available on Monday, you will be getting it.
Yeah, it's kind of like the live patching, you know what I'm saying? That they starting to push out, because that's something they bring in into Linux as well. Live patching, you get live patch your systems, so there's no need to reboot or anything. And I'm glad you did this article, because I love the Pixel phones, man. Like you get everything before all the other Android phones that are out there. So if you got a Samsung or whatever, you're gonna get that update like maybe a couple weeks after we get it. You know, if you got a Pixel, yeah, the Pixel is top notch as far as because you know got that access straight to Google as far as the updates go. You know.
Yeah. See, my thing is that if you're running a Samsung or you're running something like an LG or something like that, you kind of don't get that. You don't get the big feature updates. You get the little ringtone, right? Little Flip made $1 million off of ringtones, right? They're kind of dripping out the things that are not really all that important. Um, if someone's still stuck on Android 8 or Android 9, yeah, you've released an update for Gmail, but what happened to the operating system of their phone? They're still waiting, you know, for a new drop. Yep. All right, let me get to this next one from BBC.com. Plus.AI's autonomous lorry crosses US in 3 days. A Silicon Valley startup says it has completed the first commercial coast-to-coast journey across America with an autonomous lorry. Plus.AI said, let me expand this out, said one of its vehicles had hauled a refrigerator trailer full of butter 2,800 miles from California to Pennsylvania in less than 3 days. It relied on sensors, cameras, radar, LiDAR, light detection and ranging technology, and computer vision software underpinned by artificial intelligence. But a driver and engineer rode along. Big deal. This cross-country freight run shows the safety, efficiency, and maturity of our autonomous trucks, which are already delivering freight for other partners several days a week, said co-founders Sean Kerrigan. Continued advances in our autonomous trucks will make it possible for these quick cross-country runs to be the norm in the future. Professor David Bailey of the University of Birmingham Business School said the journey from Tulare on the West Coast to Quakertown on the East Coast was quite a big deal. He added, while many commentators became excited about driverless technologies over the last few years, interest waned after it was overhyped. But it's important to note that underlying investment in the new autonomous technologies is still ongoing, evidenced by the Plus.AI self-driving truck run. Daimler and Tesla are also developing self-driving lorries. But Uber scrapped its research program last July to focus on autonomous cars instead. Tom Brose of the University of Oxford's Robotics Institute told BBC News Embark and TuSimple had similar successes. Embark, for example, completed a 2,400-mile trip across the U.S. Last February. Freight journeys were relatively straightforward as traffic flowed in the same direction at roughly the same speed on highways, Mr. Burrows said. Only the beginning and end part of the journey have to be done manually for now, he said. So I think it's a pretty big market, especially in countries like the US or Australia. It's interesting they bring Australia because Australia has these really, really long roads that they call, that is designed for like road trains. And for those who don't understand what a road train is, you have this tractor trailer that has multiple wagons on the back of it, and it just kind of hauls massive amounts of cargo. Let me see if I can pull up a picture of it so people understand what I'm talking about. All right, let me share my screen real quick. This is a road train. So it has 1, 2, 3, 4 tankers on the back of it. I mean, in the U.S., this is unprecedented. You wouldn't do something like this, mostly because the infrastructure doesn't afford you that opportunity to do something like this. But this is exactly what a road train is. Actually, it says it's in the United States, but I believe this is in the Southwest. But you don't typically see it in on the East Coast. You don't see these type of things. All right. Here's another one right here. Exactly what I called it, road train. That's what it says on the front. But anybody who thinks that autonomous vehicles are not coming, there's proof right there.
Yeah, that's crazy. I ain't never seen no truck that long, bro. Or that many trailers attached to the truck. Man, you got to have a souped up engine for that. And I don't know much about, trucks. So maybe Tire City or MOT hop on. But yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, I assume that once the load gets going, it probably makes it easier, right?
Oh
yeah. Yeah. Maybe stopping it is probably the biggest issue that they'll have. All right, this one's from Cointelegraph.com. Formula One branded blockchain game to auction digital race car tokens. This is pretty old. Blockchain game F1 Delta Time, licensed by the world-renowned racing series Formula One, is holding an auction of F1 car branded non-fungible tokens, NFTs, later this week. According to an announcement on November 22nd, the auction will be held on November 28th, with fans already able to participate in a live contest to compete for various related prizes. As previously reported, F1 Delta Time purportedly draws 1.6 billion television viewers across over 180 territories and engage 506 million fans worldwide. Unlike most cryptocurrencies, non-fungible tokens are a form of digital collectibles, a form of a digital collectible. Non-fungible means they are not interchangeable, carrying unique information and variant in their level of rarity. F1 Delta Time notes that it has set 5 different rarity levels, while official team cars are not available in the lowest 2 rarity tiers. Each NFT will be unusable in the forthcoming official F1 Delta Time game and will be auctioned simultaneously in a descending Dutch format with a starting price of 30 Ether. 30 Ether is a lot. All F1 branded team cars will be included in the NFT auction, including Mercedes AMG W10, Ferrari SF90, Red Bull Racing RB15, McLaren MCL34, Renault RS19, Racing Point RP19, Toro Rosso STR14, Alfa Romeo Racing C38, Haas VF19, and Williams FW42. According to this announcement, all performance cars indices are similar and will be disclosed next week. F1 Delta Times contest is currently inviting fans to predict the order of the sale for the F1 team car, with prizes including 30 Ether in various types of F1 Delta Time car gear NFTs. As reported, Formula One signed a global licensing agreement with blockchain startup Mocha brands in March of this year, paving the way for the development of the F1 Delta Time game. At the time, both parties underscored the significant brand of power of Formula One and the new licensing agreements of potential to broaden consumer exposure to blockchain. And the Mocha brands has also entered into a licensing agreement with Atari, famous for being the developer of iconic video games such as Tetris and Pac-Man. In February 2018, Atari saw its shares share price skyrocketed by over 60% after announcing that it would be investing in cryptocurrency. Ethereum co-founder Vitalik Buterin has made the argument that non-financial blockchain applications can face more difficulty gaining traction and identified developments such as NFTs and gaming as potential areas that could broaden the technology's appeal. We talked about blockchain a week or so ago about some of its capabilities by the IEEE and the use cases and standards. So we see in this case, this makes a lot of sense, having these non-fungible tokens and allowing you to have access to real memorabilia such as a real racing car. That's a game changer for me. No pun intended. All right, let me jump to this next article. All right, this one is from fastcompany.com. How self-driving car tech could help drones monitor power lines to prevent wildfires. Last year, California had its most destructive and deadliest wildfire year on record. Increasingly dry, warm, and windy weather conditions brought about by climate change are a big reason why. But the immediate cause is often power lines. Down lines that come into contact with nearby trees can create a spark, and that spreads into bigger fires. So far, the very inconvenient solution has been to just shut off electricity entirely during days with high wind. But a Bay Area company says that they have another answer, and it uses the same technology that lets self-driving cars see their surroundings. Quanergy is most well known for building the LiDAR sensors that help power autonomous vehicles. LiDAR works like radar, but with light waves instead of radio waves. These waves bounce back from an object, like a person on another car, to the sensor, determining how far away that object is. That information then creates a 3D map of an autonomous car's environment. Since this technology is, at its core, a 3D mapping tool, Quanergy says it can also be used to map power lines, potentially helping utility companies inspect their miles and miles of lines for encroaching trees, or finding down wires before they start a blaze. Interesting. California has more than 150,000 miles of overhead power lines. That's a lot of ground to cover for human inspectors. Imagine you connect the sensor to a drone, so the drone can fly over a surface. You can fly over the hills. You can fly over power lines, says Enzo Signor, Quanergy Chief Marketing Officer. That sensor would create a detailed image showing the curve of the hanging wires and also nearby obstacles that could be a fire hazard if that were to break. Signor estimates that a drone could map 40 acres in 15 to 20 minutes. He imagined companies sending out these LiDAR-equipped drones to scan a section of power lines that for an hour, after which the drone would send all that information back to the company so they can see if there are any issues in need of attention. The drones could also automatically alert the companies of changes like movements from fallen power lines. And it could be done without much preparation or staff, Signor says, because it's literally just like a flying drone. This could mean power companies could avoid shutting off power for large areas as a safety precaution. We need to absolutely come up with a much smarter way, a much more productive, preventative way, says Signal. By using drones, you can prevent problems from happening because you can actually detect when the problem could become an issue. Like if there's too much dry vegetation close to the power lines. Places in China and Australia have implemented this drone mapping technology, even using it to monitor the train tracks for obstacles or repair issues. Signor says some of Quantigy's drone partners are planning to work with United States power companies soon. Though no companies have signed on yet, some like California PG&E have already expressed interest in using new tech like drones in their maintenance routines. It seems like something needs to be done, at least until we can bury all those existing power lines underground or simply redesign neighborhoods to survive wildfires. Um, I think this is a very interesting use for drones, mostly because I would have thought that they would have just put cameras on a massive tower like this, right? These heavy duty power lines, they would just have multiple, just cheap cameras. I mean, relative to the cost of the actual the tower itself, I mean, adding the camera to it doesn't even tip the bucket at all in terms of the cost. So adding a drone, is kind of interesting. But I would have thought they would have did something as rudimentary as just adding the camera with infrared technology for looking at nighttime and stuff like that. I would have thought that would have just been the case, but I guess not. But once again, the robot's going to take somebody else's job away. So they're talking about, it can cover 40 acres in 15 minutes. Human beings just can't do that. So somebody's going to have to pay for it. All right, let me jump to the next article. Oh, that sucks. All right. All right, this one is from BusinessInsider.com. We asked 13 software execs whether Microsoft can topple Amazon in the cloud, and they say there's a chance it'll be a hard battle. Amazon has the top spot when it comes to cloud market share, but Microsoft is presenting more of a threat than ever. Amazon Web Services essentially invented the modern cloud computing market in the mid-2000s and dominates it to this day. According to estimates from Gartner, AWS has 47.8% market share, with its position reinforced by new products and databases, AI, and other fields. But Microsoft, the runner-up, is catching up with its arsenal of long-time enterprise customers. Already, analysts say that AWS, which has historically prided itself on paying attention to customers, not competitors, is showing rare signs of becoming more reactive to Microsoft's big moves. Underscoring the mounting competition for Microsoft's big surprise win win of the Joint Enterprise Defense Infrastructure JEDI contract, a $10 billion deal to move the Department of Defense's sensitive information onto the cloud. Amazon is currently challenging Microsoft's win, and AWS CEO Andy Jassy has said the company feels the decision was not adjudicated fairly because of the political interference. Even technologically, Amazon appears to be chasing Microsoft in other areas. At its annual reInvent conference this month, AWS announced that its Outpost product is now available, representing Amazon's big push into hybrid cloud, a market in which Microsoft has long established itself. Likewise, AWS announced Amazon Bracket, a new quantum computer service that helps it keep pace with similar efforts from Microsoft and Google. Amid all of this, Amazon has only recently eased up on long-standing rules that actually prevent partners from mentoring or mentioning terms like multi-cloud, which imply that there are other options out there than AWS. We've seen pretty big uptick in Azure. They are a powerful channel, and they are a very powerful channel and have a very powerful sales team. They have a very strong application base. With that opportunity, we'll see what happens in the future. It's going to be a big battle between the two. Microsoft has a very strong partner program that will certainly present an opportunity for them to continue to accelerate. I think Azure has started to invest very heavily on the partner side and bring the advantages they have to the downstream channel. I say that my perception is AWS has a much more developer-friendly platform. Microsoft is doing well on traditional business applications. As businesses start to take on legacy applications, Microsoft will pick up a bit. One thing is Azure is picking up a lot more new innovative services, and they are attracting developers over. What I do know is the world very rarely settles on one thing. I've seen Microsoft come up and Google come up, and customers, we see a real desire to have flexibility on deployment. I think people want choice. Who wins the ultimate battle? I don't think there will be a single winner. The adoption of cloud has two different waves. The early adopters were startups that went directly to the cloud and became very big. Amazon benefited from that wave. Now everyone is moving to the cloud, including big enterprises. The second wave is benefiting Microsoft. I don't think so at this point. I think there are specific use cases that can be applicable. AWS has taken almost 50% of the cloud share. It's hard to compete against that. Alibaba has beaten Google. It's a very competitive market to get into. They'll grow, surpass. I don't think they can at this point. It's hard to know what Microsoft's cloud revenue is versus the things that more directly compete with infrastructure. It's very clear that Microsoft is number two. It's our benefit to see multiple cloud providers. Whether they'll be bigger than AWS, who knows? Microsoft still has a shot at it. I will add that since Google is reforming with Thomas Kurian, we've seen Google spike. We've seen Google spike up in the market. If anything, the reality is that it will be a 3-cloud race versus a 2-cloud race. Microsoft has a solid chance of it. They built their business on supporting developers. My money will be on the Chinese providers before Microsoft and Google. They are innovating and being aggressive about entertaining new markets. I think Microsoft definitely has its own market. I don't want to call it a niche because it's not a niche. AWS has its own market and Microsoft has its own market. For Veeam, from our customer base, it's approximately 50-50. I know AWS has a bigger market share than Azure, but in our customer base, it's 50-50. For our customers who are modernizing their data centers and use Windows, Azure is the most convenient. It depends on the market segment. AWS is really good with new startups that are born in the cloud. Lots of those enterprises just started and needed to catch up. They are not born from the cloud. Both Amazon and Microsoft need to pay more attention to this. Whoever can serve this wave of customers will be better off. Of course, Microsoft has better customers on this side. It's gravity that might drag them down. However, AWS does need to be more careful about Azure. So I'm not going to read the rest of these. The thing here to understand is that Amazon, Amazon is not invincible, so to speak. What makes Microsoft an attractive partner is their Gold Partner program. And so that allowed small, medium businesses, and if you had enough people with certifications, it made you a gold partner with Microsoft. That was a big deal. That's why certifications like the MCSC, MCSA, and MCP, things like that, became very popular because if you had a staff that had a certain amount of Microsoft certifications, you became a gold partner with them. So you had access to sort of privilege technologies and updates that other other vendors did not have, right? They just did not have that. And so you have all these people with these certifications, not certifications, you have all these people, all these companies, these entities that need to get to the cloud, and they have all this Microsoft technology. They're probably going to lean way more to Microsoft Azure before they lean on AWS. They might use AWS for like hosting their front end websites, maybe some other non-trivial, non-sensitive instances will be held in AWS, but moving Active Directory to the cloud with AWS, not going to happen. They'll wait for Microsoft to get their stuff together first before they make that big transition. Same thing with Exchange. They'll wait for Microsoft to come up with a very stable Office 365 transition path, and that will be the end of it. Same thing with SQL Server. They'll wait for Microsoft to come up with a better SQL Cloud or SQL Azure or Azure SQL, whatever you want to call it, before they make that transition. They won't go to AWS. AWS is getting a lot of the fluff, right? They get a lot of the startups and the legacy companies that did not make the full transition to cloud. They can say, yeah, we're in the cloud because they put their website up there. Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, Mike.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I love to add to that, bro. Yeah. Dang, I lost my train of thought. Oh, there we go. Yeah, Microsoft got that old money pretty much. Mm-hmm. That's the way I look at it. They've been around the game. They got a lot of government. So hesitant on moving stuff to that cloud, as far as I could tell, and from what I've seen, because the cloud, is you putting your stuff out there on the net, which is already connected, but at the same time, it's you entrusting it, and they would probably feel more comfortable trusting it with Microsoft. Well, trusting Microsoft than AWS, which is. But what's the point? So, but yeah, just to add, AWS, that's kind of for the new development. You know what I'm saying? That's catching all those type of people. Mm-hmm. But yeah, Microsoft ain't gonna let go of them old customers.
Yeah, and the thing is, most companies don't want to put all their eggs in one basket. No one wants to put all their eggs into AWS's basket. They will always go for a multi-pronged strategy or a multi-cloud strategy. Whereas AWS is kind of looking down their nose and looking at people's side-eye, their client's side-eye, and saying, well, we don't really use the term multi-cloud. Well, you're going to have to use that term because if you're a big enterprise, you're not putting all your eggs in one basket. Not going to happen. So there you have it. Let me jump to this next article. This one is from cointelegraph.com. Microsoft Azure announces blockchain token and data management service. This should be good. So Microsoft blockchain-enabled cloud service, Microsoft Azure, announced new tokenization and blockchain data management services. In a post published on the official Microsoft Azure blog on December 6th, the IT service giant announced the Azure blockchain tokens and blockchain data manager. The Azure blockchain tokens service aims to simplify the definition, creation, and management of the compliant tokens built to industry standards. The firm also provides pre-built templates for common uses and hosts a gallery of templates created by partners, which are expected to be added in the future, the announcement reads. The other service announced, Blockchain Data Manager, is a new Azure blockchain service feature designed to allow its users to capture blockchain ledger data, transform and decrypt it if it is encrypted, and deliver it to multiple sources. Per the announcement, this new functionality simplifies the cumbersome task of integrating existing applications with data that sits on a blockchain ledger. Earlier this week, Microsoft Azure has also announced Azure Heroes, non-fungible blockchain tokens aimed at rewarding its developer community. Blockchain is seeing increasing adoption in the most disparate of industries. As Cointelegraph illustrated in a dedicated analysis yesterday, one of the latest examples is provided by the use of blockchain in combination with 3D printing to enhance aerospace supply chains. This is actually very interesting. But we talk about blockchain a lot on this channel because this is, come 2020, it's all, everybody's going to have their hand in the pie in blockchain in some way, shape, or form. Even Microsoft is talking about non-fungible tokens, right? We just read an article earlier about how F1 is actually using non-fungible tokens to allow rewards to investing into these F1 cars that are being used as memorabilia. So yeah, learn Azure. Azure is the cloud. Blockchain is the technology, and big data management. So I would be studying all of these things as much as I could. Mongo databases, Couch databases, SQL, all databases that are relevant to relevant to today's modern systems.
I'm taking that. Just get into all that, man.
Oh yeah.
And you'll be, good. It's coming.
Mm-hmm. All right, next item on the docket is from TechCrunch.com. Google launches Open Titan, an open source secure chip design project. Google has partnered with several tech companies to develop and build Open Titan, a new collaborative open source secure chip design project. The aim of the new coalition is to build trustworthy chip designs for use in data centers, storage, and computer peripherals, which are both open and transparent, allowing anyone to inspect the hardware for security vulnerabilities and backdoors. It comes at a time when tech giants and governments alike are increasingly aware that hostile nation states are trying to infiltrate and compromise supply chains in an effort to carry out long-term surveillance or espionage. Open Titan builds off of the success of Google's own custom-built chip, Titan, which it uses in its multi-factor security keys in its own brand Android phones. Critical to the chip's success is its root of trust technology, which cryptographically ensures that the chip hasn't been tampered with. Root of trust provides a solid foundation for the operating system and applications running on the chip. Google said Open Titan will be run by Low Risk, a non-profit community, and will rely on partnerships with ETH Zurich, G+D Mobile Security, Nuvoton Technology, and Western Digital to support the project. Open Titan will be a platform agnostic, it will be platform agnostic and can be adapted to almost any device or software, Google said. It's not the first project dedicated to building secure chip designs. The Open Compute project, supported by Facebook, Intel, and Google, was created to open source designs for its core infrastructure servers as part of an effort to gain better efficiencies from data center operations. Apple has also has its own secure, albeit proprietary custom silicon, the Apple T2, found in its latest MacBooks, which it uses to control a device's security functions and store the user's passwords and encryption keys. So, open source hardware is a evolution of open source software. Um, Linux being one of the main drivers of the open source community as an operating system, um, leads all applications that are open source as well. The applications don't work unless there's an operating system to go with it. But now the operating system is being married with a open source chipset, which is Open Titan by Google. So I don't know how far they can go with this. Since the performance isn't going to be 100% to that of an x86 CPU or even a Titanium for that matter. So it's a wait and see sort of deal, because there's going to be a lot of eyes on it. It allows um, chips to have better visibility and security because of the vulnerability assessment by all these open source eyes watching it. So very interesting.
Yeah, this is a great thing, though. If I could add to it, Mike. Yeah, a lot of these big companies are starting to see the value of open source
Mhm.
technology or open source applications as well as OSs. I remember a little while back, Microsoft actually they became a what do they call it? They got on the board of what was that, Ubuntu? As far as no, not Ubuntu. I'm sorry. The Linux Foundation.
Yep.
That's what it was. They donated and it became a seating member of the board for the Linux Foundation,
Mhm.
as well as they purchased GitHub. You talked about that previously, and not to stir to strictly Microsoft, but a lot of these companies, yeah, they really starting to see the upside because at one point they despised open source. Because they would lose money at that point if they put the actual source code out there for everyone to see. So that's why it's always been that big fight between proprietary software versus open source software. So um, I mean, they seeing the benefit because it's just like the Linux operating system. It's open source. Anybody can go to GitHub and actually look at the Linux project and look at the source code for the actual OS. And if you take the time to understand the coding language that's used to build the operating system, then you can actually look at it and test it yourself, and actually see how it's built and look for vulnerabilities and all that good stuff. So that's a good thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I wonder how far they're going to go with this, though. This one is from ZDNet.com. The world's fastest supercomputer hit higher speeds than ever with Linux. Speaking of Linux. Yes, there's a lot of talk now about how quantum computers can do jobs in 200 seconds. That would take the world's fastest supercomputers 10,000 years. That's nice, but the simple truth is, for almost all jobs, supercomputers are faster than anything else on the planet. And in the latest top 500 supercomputer ratings, the average speed of the Linux-powered racers is now an astonishing 1.14 petaflops. The fastest of the fast machines haven't changed since the June 2019 top 500 supercomputer list. Leading the way is Oak Ridge National Laboratories Summit System, which holds top honors with an HPL result of 148.6 petaflops. This is an IBM-built supercomputer using power CPUs in NVIDIA Tesla V100 GPUs. In a rather distant second place is another IBM machine, Lawrence Livermore National Laboratories Sierra system. It uses the same chips, but it only hit a speed of 94.6 petaflops. Close behind at number 3 is the Sunway Tile-Lite supercomputer with an HPL mark of 93.0 petaflops. Tile-Lite was developed by China's National Research Center of Parallel Computer Engineering and Technology and is installed at the National Supercomputing Center in Wuxi. It is powered exclusively by Sunway's SW26010 processors. Sunway followed by the Tianyi 2A, Milky Way 2A processor. This is a system developed by China's National University of Defense Technology, NUDT, is deployed at the National Supercomputer Center in China, powered by Intel Xeon CPUs and Matrix 2000 accelerators. It has a top speed of 61.4 petaflops. Coming at number 5, the Dell-built Frontera, a Dell C6420 system, is powered by Intel Xeon Platinum processors. Its speeds are long at 23.5 petaflops. It lives at the Texas Advanced Computer Center of the University of Texas. The most powerful new supercomputer on the list is Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute Center for Computational Innovations, IMOS. It made the list in the top in the 25th position with 8 petaflops. The IBM-built system, like Summit and Sierra, is powered by Power 9 CPUs and NVIDIA V100 CPUs. China continues to develop more and faster machines. It now has almost half of the world's fastest supercomputers. At the same time, the US-based systems remains near its all-time low at 118. That said, American systems are, on average, significantly larger and faster. So in terms of aggregate performance, US supercomputers still have a 37.8% share of the list. China is close behind with 31.9% performance share. China is gaining. The June 2019 list had the US with 38.4% of the list aggregate performance, in China with a 29.9%. 29.9%. While at the top, the fastest of the fast competition has remained the same. It's a different story with the Green 500 list. This is a list of the most energy efficiency supercomputers that have transformed. The new number 1 is the A64 FX prototype supercomputer, which delivered 16.9 gigaflops per watt, just slightly less. Green at number 2 is a NA1, a Zetascaler machine that uses PZ Computers PZSC2 processors and delivers 16.3 gigaflops per watt. The third ranked Green 500 system is the aforementioned IMOS system. Prove that you can be fast and green. It's followed by the 2 more Power 9 NVIDIA V100 IBM systems. While fast chips are vital for the fastest computers, it's not all about the processors. For the CPUs to deliver high performance, they need data as fast as they can get it. While Ethernet is used in 52% of the top 500 systems. Lately, that data is being delivered more and more often by Mellanox Technologies' HDR InfiniBand. 141 of the top 500 supercomputers now use HDR InfiniBand, including 2 of the top 5. From a performance perspective, it's clear why this is so. Despite the difference in the number of deployed systems, InfiniBand-based machines represent 40% of the top 500's aggregate performance, and Ethernet-based machines have 29%. Mellanox's new 200 gigabits per second HDR InfiniBand is also seeing broad adoption. In the next top 500 list, I'm sure we'll see many systems deploying this newer, faster InfiniBand connection. So I find this interesting because, like I said, China is catching up. I know Japan has a few supercomputers too. I'm not sure what they're rated at. I'd be interested in knowing what they're going to do with the new AMD system by Cray. Let me share my screen because that should actually be on the list. So this is the Cray supercomputer with the AMD EPYC processors. It doesn't necessarily say what the petaflops are or what the gigaflops are. Let me see if I can find it. That would be interesting too. Okay, it says AMD EPYC processors will deliver approximately 7 petaflops of performance and play in an integral role in maintaining the UK's nuclear deterrent. So 7 petaflops is actually pretty. Actually, this is interesting. Cray and AMD to build 1.5 exaflops supercomputers for U.S. government. Let me read this caption real quick. AMD and Cray have announced that they are building Frontier, a new supercomputer for the Department of Energy at Oak Ridge National Laboratory. The goal is to deliver a system that can perform 1.5 exaflops floating point operations per second. By way of comparison, a single NVIDIA RTX 2080 GPU manages about 14 teraflops of compute performance with 32-bit numbers. Frontier will achieve 100,000 times more. The fastest supercomputer in the top 500 list weighs in at 200 petaflops or 0.2 exaflops. As things stand, it will take the top 160 machines on the list to match Frontier's performance. Frontier will use custom versions of AMD's EPYC processors matched with 4 GPUs, all connected using AMD's Infinity Fabric. Between nodes, Cray's Slingshot interconnect will be used, which has a transfer rate of 200 gigabits per port. The GPUs will have their own stacked HBM high bandwidth memory. It'll be housed in 100 cabinets, taking about 7,300 square feet of floor space. Power consumption will be 30 to 40 megawatts. So this isn't this is nothing to sneeze at. This AMD is probably going to be better than everything that's on the market if it's ever completed. This was last year. This was actually 6 months ago. This was 6 months ago. So the goal is to deliver a system that can perform 1.5 exaflops. This is astounding. Let me do the calculations on this because now my brain is working. One exaflop is 1,000 petaflops, or a quintillion floating point operations per second. So exaflops exceed that of petaflops. So while the last computer that they were talking about was capable of performing, these are with the Xeon processors, 61 or 93 petaflops, well, the AMD does 1.4 exaflops. Keep that in mind, that's if this is going over your head, that means that it does tremendously better than anything that's on the market right now. I don't know anything on the market that can actually keep up with that. Now my brain's curious. Let me see what. Let me see. So I happened to go to the career section of Cray, just out of curiosity. What exactly does it take to work at a place like Cray? And the role that they have open is a systems engineer role. The senior system support engineer position takes a lead role in providing system hardware support as part of a team to a major Cray customer located in Canberra, Australia. This position is responsible for understanding and complying with Cray internal controls. Ideally, the candidate will have a bachelor's degree in computer science or 10 years of HPC, high performance computing experience with large scale parallel systems will be highly regarded. To be successful, candidates must demonstrate the following: provides highly visible customer support through the performance of on-site installation, servicing, and repair of complex equipment and systems. Checks out and approves of operational quality of the system's equipment. Instructs customer in the operation and maintenance of the system. Serves as a company liaison with the customer on administrative and technical matters for assigned projects. Participates in customer status and planning meetings. Responsible for maintaining a high level of customer satisfaction. So, Josh, you think you could do something like this? Work on a supercomputer?
To be honest, I don't know. I would love to get on one and somebody show it to me, but yeah, I don't know if I can if I could do it, you know.
It doesn't seem like that. It doesn't seem like they're asking for a whole lot, man. They're only saying that Perl, Python, the overall responsibilities have nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would, if I was in the market, man, from a hardware perspective, if I got my A+, my Server Plus, man, I feel confident and go apply to it.
Yeah, I don't know. I just be,
yeah,
a little nervous about getting into stuff that, I ain't never touched before. I mean, it is what it is, though. That's just the way. That's just the way I am.
Insert cash or select payment type.
I mean, I know I could do it, but I mean, I'll be nervous about it. Let me just say that because of just how the mass amount of stuff or that it could process. I don't know. It'd just be kind of intimidating. I guess that's the word I'm trying to get to.
All right. This next one is from Cointelegraph.com. AMD joined Blockchain Game Alliance partners with marketplace creators. A December 12th press release revealed that the chip manufacturing giant is partnering with blockchain technology providers Robot, Cache, and Ultra, both of whom are working to develop and operate blockchain-based online gaming marketplaces. These marketplaces aim to establish new secure purchase options and distribution channels for game publishers and users. The Blockchain Game Alliance is an organization committed to the adoption of blockchain technologies in gaming by promoting the creation of common standards, facilitating networking and knowledge sharing, and encouraging cooperation and the implementation of best practices. AMD is reportedly the first hardware manufacturer to join the alliance, which counts Aegon token creator Fig and veteran blockchain game developer Everdreamsoft as members. According to the press release, both marketplaces will integrate AMD's graphic cards and processor technology for a range of purposes, including their back-end service and blockchain infrastructure. AMD's Ryzen CPU, Ryzen processors and Radeon graphic cards have reportedly been designed to provide optimal cryptographic compute performance. We kind of talked about that the other day about AMD's Ryzen processors and Radeon graphics cards being good at computational cryptographic numbers. AMD claims its CPU and GPU technology will serve as a powerful motor for compute-intensive blockchain and gaming workloads. The hardware manufacturer will also provide robust security protection to help protect digital content from a range of online attack vectors. Earlier this year, AMD outstripped market expectations, reporting significant gross margin expansion as its Ryzen and EPYC processor and data center GPU revenue more than doubled year over year. So AMD has tied itself in with blockchain finally. I think that now is the perfect time for them to do so and actually solidify themselves as the go-to company for blockchain mining and cryptographic hashing. All right, let me jump to this next one. Almost done.
And I apologize, Mike. I was in the checkout line. That's why I couldn't think too fast when you asked me that question.
No, it's cool.
Sorry about that.
That's cool. All right, next one is from TechCrunch.com. Intel buys AI chip maker Habana for $2 billion. That's a lot of money. Intel this morning issued a statement noting that it has picked up an Israeli AI chip maker Habana Labs. The deal, valued at around $2 billion, is the latest piece of some hefty investments in artificial intelligence that include names like Nirvana Systems and Movidius. In July, Habana announced its God AI training processor, which the Tel Aviv startup promised was capable of beating GPU-based systems by 4 times. The company has been rumored to be a target for Intel acquisition for a while now. And as Intel looks to get out in the front of the AI market, the company clearly doesn't want to repeat past mistakes like missing the boat on mobile. So far, the strategy looks like it may pay off, giving Intel a marked advantage in its category. It notes it will be worth around $24 billion by 2024. In 2019 alone, Intel knows the company expects to generate in excess of $3.5 billion in AI-driven revenue, a 20% increase over the year prior. The acquisition advances our AI strategy, which is to provide customers with solutions to fit every performance need, from the intelligent edge to the data center. Intel EVP Navin Shenoy said in a release tied to the news. More specifically, Habana Turbo charges our AI offerings for the data center with a high-performance training processor family and a standards-based programming environment to address evolving AI workloads. For now, Intel expects to operate Habana as an independent business unit, keeping its current management team on board, with operations still primarily based in Israel. Habana chairman Avigdor Bolonez will stay on and advise company. So if you can't beat them, you just buy them. And that's how the game works now. Somebody else does something, you got more money than them, you just buy off their product and call it a day, and then claim it as your own. There was a time where real men built their own chips, not anymore. Or at least they used to fab their own chips. That's what Hector Reyes, the former head of AMD, used to say back in the early 2000s. Not anymore. All right, this one is from WCCFtech.com. Interesting. A Chinese competitor to Intel and AMD CPUs, Xiaojin might be the answer. Xiaojin in June released its Lugia Zhui CPU, which was built off of a 16 nanometer process node and offered an x86 microarchitecture. The CPU will be part of the Kaijin KX6000 family, which is aimed at both mobility and desktop PCs. As reported by WikiChip, Xiaojin is in the process of designing out its next generation of system on chips for the Kaijin and Kaijin Shen series, with the latter being designed for a range of server and data center applications. The current Kaijin KX6000 processors are based on the Lugia Zhui architecture. They offered up to 8 core with a base clock of just 3 gigahertz. Still, Xiaojin newer KX7000 chips would be using a new architecture, which would be built on a 7 nanometer manufacturing process and offer an iGPU, which was not included in the KX6000 processor. The upcoming KX7000 processor's GPU is planned to be compatible with DirectX 12 and provide support for PCIe 4.0 and DDR5 RAM. Not only is Xiaojin working on a 7 nanometer process production, at the same time, Xiaojin is currently in the planning phase for working on a sub 7 nanometer design for the both laptop and desktop CPUs. AMD and Intel have also confirmed DDR5 and PCIe 5.0 support for their server platforms in 2021. So they would also have support for the same memory technology of their consumer-based platforms too. This will make it on the same core capabilities as AMD's Threadripper line of chips. The core count of the KH4000 series has not been announced, but the base clock should surpass the current base clock speed of the KH3000 series chip, which is 2.7 gigahertz. So this, I'm not sure how the Chinese were able to do something like this in such a short amount of time. It's been rumored that they may have copied AMD's processors from last generation and had just put their own little name on it. That could be the case. There was a time in the 90s where a company called Citrix used to make x86 compatible CPUs. They were the third processor manufacturer after AMD, right? So you had Intel, AMD, and then you had Citrix. And what happened with Citrix was that the market couldn't support that many competitors, and they eventually bowed out and was bought out by VIA, VIA. And VIA eventually went the other way as well. They eventually bowed out themselves once Intel sued them. I think at one point there was a big lawsuit between Intel and VIA, and I think that they ate a lion's share of the settlement. So interesting times. We're back to the same thing that happened in the 90s where you had a third CPU player to enter the market realm and be competitive. Citrix CPUs were never really competitive. They were just they just didn't have the oomph. They were good at like email and stuff like that and Word. They were never good at gaming. All right. All right, last one on the docket is from space.com. Europe challenges amateurs to be the first to catch a signal from brand new satellite. This is a cube-based satellite for those of you not understanding. This is actually a satellite. Very interesting. Are you a passionate space loving radio amateur? You could be the first to catch a signal from the European Space Agency's brand new experimental satellite. Next week, ESA will be launching OpsSat, a new CubeSat, on a Soyuz rocket from Kourou, French Guiana. The satellite will launch with ESA's Cheops exoplanet tracker. After it reaches space, OpsSat will deploy its solar panels and ultra high frequency antenna. It will then start signals. It should be send signals, start signals back from home to Earth. It is then that radio amateurs will have the opportunity to catch the first signal from its small satellite and find it out in the cosmos, per a request from ESA's Mission Control System in Darmstadt, Germany. At only about a foot high, OpsSat is the first of its kind, a CubeSat designed explicitly for experimentation. The satellite is the kind of like a space-based science playground. It will carry a computer 10 times more powerful than any other on an ESA spacecraft, a high-resolution camera, radio equipment, and more. Experimenters can use these onboard tools to test software and apps. Investigations that are currently planned for the little cube satellite include experiments that quickly process images of Earth in in-flight using neural networks and deep learning technology to make it easier and faster to detect and monitor events like forest fires. Control rovers remotely. OpsSat would function as a midway point between people communicating from Earth and the rover in a separate location. Test the idea of running completely automated space mission using artificial intelligence. That's pretty interesting that they're talking about automating a space mission. Yeah, what can go wrong with that? Use a programmable radio receiver to measure interference in communications with other spacecraft. Investigate the idea of using laser light to transmit data securely. Now, not only is the ESA inviting radio amateurs to get involved with OpsSat, the agency has also opened up the opportunity for anyone to apply to become an experimenter. If you want to utilize OpsSat, you can apply and learn more here. So they have this little satellite that has more power than any other satellite that has been launched by the European Space Agency. This thing is not that much bigger than an Apple iPad or a champagne bottle, for that matter. But if you look at it, you would never know that. It's actually a very powerful satellite. And cube-based satellites is a topic that we covered months ago on here. In fact, goes back to last year. We've been covering cube-based satellites and how easy it is to actually get into this market if you have enough elbow grease and willpower to do so. So see BGS in the chat. What's going on, BGS? Yeah, that's interesting that the Chinese are actually putting this out there really quickly. Let me go through the chat, see if anybody's saying anything.
Yeah, more and more of their stuff is starting to look more like strategy than, well, and maybe I'm behind on everything, but it's starting to look more like strategy versus just emerging tech. You know what I'm saying? Like they trying to really overtake the US as the next superpower. You know what I'm saying? So crazy.
Yeah, because China's playing a very strategic role, right? They're not trying to reinvent the wheel. They're just trying to copy the time for all intents and purposes, man. So they're not playing the game of origination. They're like, you have a chip that we can borrow? Okay, well, we'll use that. And then we'll just put our little stamp of approval on it, and then we'll call it something else, like duck sauce or something, right? So they played a very strategic game, whereas for Black people, man, and then the other group of people, but more in reference to Black people, they try to reinvent everything from the ground up, and that's not how you typically get ahead. China is trying to get ahead of the ball. So. Let me see if anybody's trying to get on. All right, nobody's trying to get on, so we're gonna close it out here, man. Thank you all for joining us. Please hit the like button if you've not already done so. Share the video if possible. Hit that notification bell so you get all the updates from the Black Brain Trust, including those posted on the community tab. And